I want to ask you something that might change how you see your entire life. Have you ever noticed that your biggest breakthroughs came not when you forced things to happen, but when you stopped fighting and let life carry you? Think about it for a moment, and let me know in the comments what that moment was for you. If you're new here, welcome to our podcast, where we share the life-changing teachings of Alan Watts. Hit subscribe to join our community, exploring these profound insights together. We spend most of our lives swimming upstream against a current we don't even recognize. We exhaust ourselves fighting forces we can't see, struggling against a flow we don't understand, treating life as if it's working against us, rather than recognizing that we are expressions of life itself. We feel like isolated individuals battling an indifferent universe, when in reality, we are the universe temporarily experiencing itself through human consciousness. But what if the very thing you've been fighting against is actually the divine intelligence trying to carry you home? What if what you call God is not some distant deity orchestrating events from heaven, but the very current of existence itself, the flow of life that moves through you as you in every moment? What if learning to recognize and trust this current is the key to moving from struggle to grace, from resistance to flow, from swimming upstream to being carried by the river of existence toward exactly where you need to go? This is one of Alan Watts' most beautiful and practical insights. He saw that what religious traditions call God is not separate from the natural flow of existence, but is that flow. It's not something controlling life from the outside, but the very intelligence that is life itself, the same intelligence that beats your heart, grows your hair, heals your wounds, and orchestrates the incredibly complex dance of your entire biological existence without any conscious effort on your part. This intelligence doesn't stop at the boundary of your skin. It's the same intelligence that moves the planets in their orbits, changes the seasons, evolves species over millions of years, and creates the intricate web of relationships that we call the ecosystem of Earth. And it's the same intelligence that's been guiding the events of your life, opening doors, creating opportunities, arranging meetings, and orchestrating circumstances in ways that your conscious mind could never plan or predict. Most of us miss this because we're so busy trying to swim against the current. We have our own ideas about where we should be going, our own plans for how things should unfold, our own timeline for when things should happen. And when life doesn't conform to these expectations, we assume something has gone wrong. We increase our efforts, we try harder, we force outcomes, we resist what's happening and demand that something else happen instead. But what if nothing has gone wrong? What if the current of life is actually carrying you exactly where you need to go, even when it doesn't look like where you thought you wanted to go? What if the obstacles you're encountering are not impediments to your path, but course corrections guiding you towards something better than what you had planned? What if the delays, detours, and difficulties you're experiencing are not evidence that life is working against you, but signs that life is working for you in ways you don't yet understand? Think about the major turning points in your life. How many of them came through events you didn't plan, doors that opened unexpectedly, opportunities that arose from apparent setbacks? How many of your most important relationships began through coincidences and chance encounters? How many of your most significant discoveries about yourself emerged from challenges you would never have chosen, but that forced you to grow in ways you needed to grow? When you look back with the perspective of time, you can often see a pattern, a thread of intelligence weaving through events that seemed random or even harmful when you were in the middle of them. You can recognize that what felt like the current working against you was actually the current working for you, guiding you away from paths that wouldn't have served your highest good and toward experiences that were necessary for your development and awakening. This recognition can completely transform your relationship with life. Instead of feeling like you're constantly fighting against circumstances, you can begin to feel like you're being carried by a benevolent intelligence that knows things about your path that you don't know yet. Instead of experiencing life as a series of problems to be solved, you can start experiencing it as a series of invitations to trust, to grow, to discover aspects of yourself and reality that you never would have found if everything had gone according to your original plans. But learning to trust this current requires a fundamental shift in how you relate to uncertainty and control. Most of us want to know where we're going before we start the journey. We want guarantees about outcomes before we make choices. We want to understand the plan before we're willing to participate in it. But the current of life operates according to a logic that's far more complex and sophisticated than our rational minds can comprehend. It's like the difference between following a GPS and following a river. A GPS gives you the exact route, tells you every turn in advance, and promises to get you to your predetermined destination in the shortest possible time. But a river follows the natural contours of the landscape, responding to geology and gravity and weather patterns that have been shaping the terrain for millions of years. The river knows things about the landscape that no map could capture. When you try to live according to the GPS model, planning every step, controlling every variable, forcing life to follow your predetermined route, you often find yourself frustrated, exhausted, and constantly fighting against conditions you didn't anticipate. But when you learn to live according to the river model, sensing the natural flow, following the current, trusting the landscape to guide you, you often find yourself carried to destinations more beautiful than anything you could have imagined. This doesn't mean becoming passive or abandoning all planning and goal setting. It means holding your plans lightly, using them as general directions rather than rigid demands. It means being willing to adjust your course when you feel the current pulling you in a different direction. It means recognizing that your individual will is not separate from the universal will, but is the way the universal will expresses itself through your unique perspective and circumstances. When you align your personal will with this larger current, something magical happens. You find yourself moving through life with much less effort and much more effectiveness. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. Resources appear exactly when you need them. People show up who have exactly what you need or need exactly what you have. Opportunities arise that seem perfectly timed and perfectly suited to your gifts and circumstances. This is what's called going with the flow, not in the sense of being lazy or irresponsible, but in the sense of recognizing and cooperating with the intelligent current that's always moving through existence. It's learning to distinguish between the effort that works with life's natural movement and the effort that works against it. It's developing the sensitivity to feel when you're swimming upstream and the wisdom to turn around and let the current carry you instead. But how do you recognize this current? How do you distinguish between the flow of divine intelligence and the pull of your own fears, desires, and conditioning? How do you know when to go with the flow and when to exercise your will and make things happen? The key is learning to sense the quality of energy around different choices and directions. When you're moving with the current of life, there's usually a quality of ease, even when the movement itself might be challenging. Things tend to unfold naturally, synchronicities occur, resources become available, obstacles resolve themselves. There's a sense of being supported, even when you're being challenged. When you're swimming against the current, there's usually a quality of strain and resistance. You find yourself having to force things constantly. You encounter obstacle after obstacle. Resources remain scarce. You feel like you're pushing a heavy boulder up a steep hill, making very little progress despite enormous effort. This doesn't mean that following the current will always be easy or comfortable. Sometimes the current carries you through difficult terrain. Sometimes it asks you to let go of things you're attached to. Sometimes it guides you toward experiences that challenge your assumptions and push you beyond your comfort zone. But even when the journey is difficult, there's an underlying sense of rightness, of moving in harmony with something larger than yourself. Learning to trust this current requires what's called faith, not blind belief in some external authority, but intimate trust in the intelligence of existence itself. It's recognizing that the same wisdom that successfully orchestrates the incredibly complex biological processes of your body is also orchestrating the larger movements of your life. It's understanding that you don't have to figure everything out with your conscious mind, because you're part of an intelligence that's far more vast and sophisticated than individual thought. This faith develops through experience. The more you practice sensing and following the current, the more obvious it becomes. The more you trust life's intelligence, the more clearly you can perceive its guidance. The more you let go of the need to control everything, the more you discover that you're being carried by something that cares for you more deeply than you could ever care for yourself. You begin to see that what you thought were your personal efforts were actually the ways that the current was expressing itself through you. What you thought were your individual achievements were actually the fruits of cosmic collaboration. What you thought were your private struggles were actually your participation in the universal process of growth and evolution. This recognition brings tremendous relief. You realize you don't have to carry the entire burden of your life on your own shoulders. You don't have to figure everything out through personal will and effort. You don't have to force outcomes through manipulation and control. You can relax into being carried by an intelligence that loves you, that knows you better than you know yourself, and that's guiding you toward your highest good, even when you can't see how. You become what's called a leaf on the stream of existence, not passive or powerless, but responsive and trusting. A leaf doesn't fight against the current, it dances with it. It doesn't resist the wind, it uses the wind to travel to places it could never reach on its own. It doesn't try to control where the stream is flowing. It enjoys the journey and trusts the destination. This is how you can learn to live, not as someone fighting against life, but as someone dancing with life. Not as someone trying to impose your will on existence, but as someone discovering how existence wants to express its will through you. Not as someone swimming desperately towards some distant shore, but as someone floating gracefully in the current that's already carrying you home. The current is always there. The divine intelligence is always flowing. The cosmic river is always moving toward the ocean of infinite love and wisdom. You don't have to create this current, or deserve this current, or earn this current. You just have to recognize it, trust it, and allow yourself to be carried by it. This is perhaps the most liberating spiritual teaching you can receive. You don't have to save yourself because you're already being saved. You don't have to find your way because you're already being guided. You don't have to make your life work because life is already working through you. You don't have to get to God because God is the very current that's carrying you. Stop fighting the river. Stop swimming against the flow. Stop exhausting yourself trying to force life to go where you think it should go. Instead, relax into the current. Trust the intelligence that's been successfully managing the universe for billions of years. Let yourself be carried by the love that has no beginning and no end, that includes everything and excludes nothing, that is closer to you than your own breath because it is your own breath, your own heartbeat, your own deepest nature. God is not somewhere else, watching you struggle. God is the current itself, the flow of intelligence, love, and creativity that moves through all existence. And you are not separate from this current. You are a unique expression of it, a temporary formation in the eternal stream, a wave in the infinite ocean of being. Let the current carry you. Let life live itself as you. Let the divine intelligence guide you home to the recognition that you never actually left, that you are already where you belong, that you are already who you came here to be. The river knows the way. Trust the river. You are the river, temporarily forgetting what you are, temporarily thinking you need to swim against yourself, temporarily believing you're separate from the very current that is your truest nature. The current is God. God is the current. And you are both the wave and the ocean, both the drop and the stream, both the journey and the destination, both the seeker and the sought, both the one being carried and the one doing the carrying. This is the ultimate recognition. There is no separation between you and the divine current because you are the divine current, temporarily experiencing itself as you. If this wisdom touched something deep within you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Share a moment when you felt carried by life's current rather than fighting against it. And if you're ready to explore more of Alan Watts's transformative insights, subscribe and join our community of seekers, learning to flow with existence itself.